Welcome to The Hype. My name is Enoch Wong. I'm from Hong Kong, China, and I'm your host for this special episode of Young Voices. A few days ago, in Beijing, which is where I am at right now, the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China concluded its third plenary session, where important decisions and exciting visions regarding reforms in pursuit of Chinese modernization were made. Before we talk about the future, which we will in next week's episode of The Hype, today, through the lenses of Gen Zers from around the world, we will be looking into some of the achievements of China's deepening reform throughout the last decade. And joining us, we have invited young representatives from across 3 different continents to today's discussion. So I'm going to let them to say hello to you. So first, let's go to Central Americas.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pablo Miranda. I am from Mexico, and I'm currently studying a master's in international relations at Tsinghua University.
Very warm welcome to you, Pablo. Let's switch continent to Africa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lourdes Michael. I'm from Kenya. I'm a PhD student at School of South-South Corporations, Peking University.
Welcome, Michael. And going a little bit closer to home, back to Asia.
Hi, guys. My name's Angel. I'm from China, Hong Kong. I graduated from Peking University last year, 2023, and I now serve as a district council member in Hong Kong.
Oh, wow. What a panel we have for today's discussion. But before we continue, let me remind the audience watching live right now, please send us questions and comments throughout the whole entire time and be a part of this conversation. So today, in this hour of discussion, we'll go through different aspects, ranging from economic and innovation to green development, and last but not least, our livelihood and people's living. So first, let me read you a set of figures that was just recently released about the last decade of Chinese growth. Throughout the last decade, from 2013 to 2023, China's achieved remarkable economic growth with an average annual GDP growth of 6.1% throughout the last decade. And this is including the tough time that we had during the pandemic. And in 2023, China economic output has accounted for 18% of the world economy, ranking second throughout the whole entire world. And this growth, of course, has been significantly driven by innovation, particularly in the technology sector. And young entrepreneurs and youth have played a critical role in this transformation. So let me then throw a question to all of our panelists. Those are incredible figures. So what I want to ask is, some of you guys, or most of you guys, have been in China one way or the other, recently or before. I wonder, which aspect of China's economic growth do you find most impressive? Is it innovation? Is it its resilience? Or is it its international influence? Let's go, just like we did, let's go with Central Americas first. Pablo, what do you think? Which aspect do you find most impressive and why?
Well, I would say definitely economic resilience and international influence. In Latin America, in Mexico, China was seen as an important partner, but not like a very close partner when I was a kid, when I was in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Nowadays, it is undoubtable. It is perhaps the closest, the most important and relevant economic partner of not only Mexico, of the entire South Latin American continent. And that is impressive in the regard that how did that happen? How in like 10 years, perhaps, this suddenly appeared out of what seemed to us nowhere. When one comes to China, when I arrived to China from staying in the West, seeing all of these, to me, high technology devices, such as even Weixing, even the fact that I have to use Weixing to take the subway, to pay for anything, to use Meituan or Didi, it seems surreal. It truly seems like living in another country, in another decade, perhaps.
Almost like living in the future in some way or form, very futuristic in that sense. So I want to go to Michael very, very quickly, and I'll come back to you, Pablo. Is that so? Just over a decade ago, I was in Kenya. I was in East Africa, and I was very impressed by M-Pesa. So it's almost like, it's so advanced at that time. Can you tell me a little bit about how innovation, particularly technology, have driven the economy of Kenya and East Africa? Michael, I believe you're muted.
From my own understanding, from your first question, you asked about which among the three is more important. To me, I think it's innovation. Innovation encompasses all the other two aspects. That's why in Kenya, in 2007, there was the invention of M-Pesa. M-Pesa really revolutionized everything in terms of the economy, service delivery, in all sectors of the economy. So
for the audience who might not know what M-Pesa is, I do, but who do not know, can you explain a little bit what is it like and how does that compare, for example, what China have?
M-Pesa M-Pesa has three aspects. More so, there is voice, there is money transfer services, and also the streaming, video streaming. So, but what is so important about M-Pesa is about the issue of money transfer. Money transfer, money drives the economy. And because of its inclusivity, M-Pesa can be used even among the at least low or illiterate individuals in the country. So M-Pesa,
so basically, as long as you have a phone, you can use it, right? It doesn't even have to be a smartphone.
Definitely, because we have what we call USSD code. You don't have it. It's not a must for you to have a smartphone or feature phone, so long as you only have a phone that can send a text, so you can send money to anyone the way you send text message to any person or your friends. So innovation is key in everything. Because of that innovation, it helps in terms of development and also the economic growth, because these money transfer services enhance all other services. And this now help in the economic growth of the country and also for the economy.
So of course, I would recognize the economic growth from China is based on our long-term planning. I also know in Kenya, there is this 10-year innovation master plan, as well as a national e-commerce strategy as well. Can you explain a little bit? And I will go to Pablo and Angel to ask, is something similar exists also in where you're from too? Michael, can you explain a little bit about what those master plan and strategies about?
Yeah, we have master plans more. So what we are right now dealing more, or like the government is concentrated, is the issue of we have what we call e-commerce. E-commerce is trading. E-commerce is the issue of selling and production and selling of goods. This enhances economic growth. So the government is really trying in all means possible. We have also the issue of automating everything in the government. We have right now everything is paperless. We only use mobile phone and computers. So in terms of innovation and in terms of the strategies, and on building on these aspects also, we have the youth. The youth are the drivers of the economy. Without youth, everything cannot move on. So these four strategies that I mentioned, 10-year Marshall Plan of the innovation, and also six strategic plans. These are plans that enable the government to plan for future, and also on how to integrate the youth in terms of e-commerce, so that the economy can move the way other countries are, the way China move. China right now, you can ship anything from South China, which is part of the factory of China, to northern part of the country. In only less than 2 days, you were to ship something, you order something, next 48 hours, you have already received. So that's what also we are planning to have. Our government is trying all means to integrate all the plans, to use the strategies, and also enhance all these plans by using the youths. Youths are the future of the country. So That's what
So I think
doing.
you kind of described the Chinese efficiency and Chinese speed there. It's more comprehensive, right? It's not just about e-commerce, but about logistic and everything else that come with it. Pablo, I want to ask you a little bit. So I want to come to you now. Is there something similar in Mexico in terms of long-term planning? I know there was just a leadership change recently in Mexico. Can you talk a little bit about this aspect and how does it impact the economic development in your country?
Yeah, of course. We do have that kind of long-term planning, at least in theory. We have what is called a sexennial plan, which means that supposedly we have to plan every time that we elect a president, which lasts for 6 years, what kind of policies he will make, what kind of direction he will lead the country into. But I would say that, and I think this is it is a very common opinion, the biggest weakness of this is that there is no real continuation. Like before this current ruling party, we had a different ruling party with a different ideology, and this 6-year plan was stopped, and then we start again, and then if in the next elections we have a different party, it's going to stop again and it's going to start again. In China, obviously that doesn't happen. The current plans that have been put into motion go back until the previous century, and that is a weakness in our political system. And precisely this recent government change that we had, it was I would say it was not as impressive as the previous one, but it was still really impressive what happened in these elections. There was an alliance of different parties from left to right against the current president, against the candidate that was presented by the previous president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. And even
from that perspective, do we expect better continuation, hopefully in the future, or do you think otherwise?
Well, I would say that is very hard to answer. I would probably say that this new candidate is probably going to be more center, more moderate, and that is not because of personal or individual beliefs. I would say rather it is because our conditions in our country, they do not allow for very radical reforms to be enacted.
Yeah, so it's important to have a plan, but execution of a plan is as important. So Angel, coming to you, thank you so much for your patience. So of course, Hong Kong as a part of China, it follows the 14th five-year plan. And what Hong Kong has been doing, and through this 14th five-year plan, hopefully is to break through this traditional position as a financial hub, right, into different areas. One of them is the International Center for Innovation Technology. Can you talk a little bit about the ecosystem of innovation and the ecosystem of startup, and what do young people think about this?
Well, actually, to dovetail the national 14th five-year plan and to develop Hong Kong into an international INT center at full speed, in 2022, the Hong Kong government promulgated the Hong Kong Innovative and Technology Development Blueprint, and to establish a very clear development path and formulate systematic strategic planning for Hong Kong's innovation and technology. And the development is gonna be over the next 5 to 10 years, charting Hong Kong in moving full steam towards the vision of an international INT center. Actually, before this blueprint, Hong Kong has done a lot to, has a very robust support system available for startups and for young professionals. That includes programs like Cyberport and the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks Cooperation. And they offer resources like access to fundings, mentorships, and a network of successful entrepreneurs, and even infrastructures that would help startups to grow and scale their businesses. This is also very popular among youngsters and people who graduated and want to have their own businesses and want to, develop their career in technology.
So giving this kind of incentive is obviously very, very important to particularly young people, where traditionally Hong Kong is known as a financial hub. I will come back to you very, very soon. But Pablo, so from a Mexican perspective, how is the ecosystem, for example, for startup? Do you think it is an innovative environment that encourages new ideas and creativity? Because when I look at Mexican economy, there's a lot of really, really big conglomerates and big company. I wonder, what do young people think about this?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I would say it's a very common sense idea that if you have incentives for young people to get involved into innovation, to get involved into leadership, they are gonna try to achieve that, and it's gonna be perhaps even more easy to create a new generation of leaders. But in Mexico, I would say that our economy, or maybe our society, it's more conservative in that we do not have that kind of mentality. We have a system that values having already established a name for yourself, having already a reputation, having a network, and that means being, well, another person in other ways, in other words. So that is not something that we can have. We cannot have really an environment today that creates young leaders. We perhaps create young workers, but whether or not they can climb this ladder to become leaders, to become influential new young blood, I would say it's not easy, and perhaps it's even hard, even actively. How would I say it? There are active obstacles in the way of this happening.
So there's challenges. So young people need to be able to see opportunity, and particularly in the future. Because, so Pablo, you mentioned earlier there's cooperation, for example, between China and Central Americas. So Michael, I wonder, because you are currently a PhD student in the South-South cooperation development, what do you think are some of the challenges or opportunities in the Global South, and particularly, how can the Global South work better together?
Okay, for me, I understand that, many of the South Hemisphere countries, more so in part of Africa, Southeast Asia, some part of South America, we have some challenges, more so in terms of knowledge transfer from the developed countries to the less developed countries. So that's one of the key strategy or key issue that the Institute of South-South Cooperation is doing. That's like individuals who are working in the government in these less developed countries, they come to China, they learn, they get some knowledge, and then they take back to their own countries. So we have what we call the strategy that is you empower, you engage, and also these individuals will and participate in their countries to bring change. So that's one of the issues. Like in many of these countries, there are so many economic problems, shortage of resources, funds, training. So that's why we have, and I do appreciate some engagements and some activity like this, say that some individuals, not only from at least well-off countries, but poor countries who cannot be able to train their staff. So one key issue that South-South Cooperation and in part Peking University is empowering young individuals, young civil servants from these countries, not only forgetting that these individuals, they have their own innovative capabilities. These individuals, the young people, after they finish their school, they go back to their country and they have to bring change. So as for us in Kenya, I think it also brings some tenets, the same tenets with what we have here, whereby individuals or young graduates after school, after they have finished their high school, their graduate schools. Right now we have 47 county governments in Kenya, and government is trying all means to at least have what we call innovation hub in every county, so that individuals or students who have finished school, they can go there, get empowered, get engaged in new technologies, emerging technologies, and also after that they participate in the development of the country.
When you talk about cooperation, sometimes what I immediately think about, for example, East Africa, there's a East African community, right? Which is very, very vibrant, people in East Africa working with each other. But I also reminded, for example, like Angel, there's obviously the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area as well. So I wonder, what do young people feel this regional cooperation, regional strategy? Do you think it is a potential for boosting economic development across the 9 cities and 2 special administrative regions?
Definitely, I think yes, because in that 9 cities, we actually specialize in different things. For example, now in Shenzhen, you know, we're now trying out different technologies like the let me think about what is it called again? The low altitude airspace economy. We're trying that out in Shenzhen right now, and Hong Kong is a financial hub. And it's, you know, we specialize in different things. And I think working together as 9 cities, we can integrate very well. And, you know, we can combine resources better and then, you know, have a better outcome. And I think youngsters in Hong Kong also embraces that, because I see that a lot of them are actually going into Greater Bay Area and trying to find different opportunities to understand more about mainland and how the economic work and what the technology is like there. And they're trying to look for different opportunities, and the Chinese and the Hong Kong government and different social groups are also providing them with such opportunities. And I think in the future, with better communication between, you know, mainland students and Hong Kong students, we'd be able to create something very exciting.
So I just thought of tough questions I want to throw to all you guys, including you, Angel, as well, because we have, you know, Angel, you study public management as well as you know, business management. Pablo, you study international relations, and Michael, you study particularly economic and cooperation development. What I want to ask is, with this cooperation, which is good, but there's also competition too. So how do you then balance between getting the most out of cooperation, but while maintaining being competitive, right? There's a tension between, of course, cooperation is good, but we are also competitors too. Pablo, I'm seeing you smiling. Do you have a input and comments on this?
Well, I think it's yeah, it's a hard question. I think that that is perhaps also one of the biggest questions in China. But I think China is doing that pretty well. What we can see today, for example, in the Chinese domestic development of technology, more so with AI and with these new drone, electric vehicles, and many other new fields that didn't exist maybe 10 years ago, that has worked perfectly. In the West, we are still, even very big companies in Silicon Valley, they are still struggling with this whole topic of new kinds of batteries, with new kinds of drones and cheap, affordable drones that can be competitive on the market. In China, that is probably, in my opinion, because of this stewarding, because of this balance between how competitive you can get, you can let something be without it becoming a monopoly. Mm-hmm. I believe monopolies and this kind of concentration of how would I call it, it disincentivizes competition, of course. If you don't have like the drive to create something better and cheaper, then there is no competition. It's just stability, or rather a stasis in this economic market.
So competition is good because it's good for the end users, right? At the end of the day, competition means everyone is striving to be better, increasing quality. But while cooperation, hopefully we can maximize the strength of different stakeholders. Angel, do you have a comment on this? Because I saw you smile as well. It's a tough question, I know, because these are exactly some of the situations that Hong Kong is facing.
Yes, definitely. I'm smiling because it is exactly the kind of issue or problem that we're facing right now. Because a lot of us travel to Shenzhen during the weekends to buy essentials for leisure and for a lot of different activities. We spend a lot of money in Shenzhen, but we tend to not spend that much money in Hong Kong, and that's affecting Hong Kong's economy. And I think I really agree with what he just said because it also drives innovation and creativity in Hong Kong to make us more competitive in terms of, retail or services. And we also try different initiatives, like for example Polite Hong Kong. We try to promote politeness and better service to be more competitive, and I think in the long term this is helping us to improve. And yeah, definitely very competitive nowadays. I think it also allows us to focus more on the areas that are more high end, maybe because we have this 8 centers positioning that we are focusing on right now. And these positioning also help us to be more competitive and have a competitive advantage compared to other 9 cities of the Greater Bay Area.
And the other special administrative region as well. Let's not forget about Macau.
Yeah, exactly.
But so what I'm getting is that competition is good because it drives innovation. So sometimes we do need a nudge here and there to push us to better define ourselves, to better identify our strength. So therefore we can amplify that in a competitive market environment. Let's talk about another competition. Let's switch gear a little bit, but it's still a competition, green development. Let me read you a little bit of the background and then we'll dive straight into this. So China has made significant strides in green development over the past decade, from 2013 to 2023. And by 2023, clean energy consumption accounted for 26.4% of the total energy consumption. That's quite a bit. That's a quarter of the energy consumption of a very big economy. And that's an increase of almost 12% from a decade ago. And moreover, of course, anyone have been in China, most of the vehicles you see on the road, they are new energy and renewable energy vehicle, electrical vehicle as well. So China has led the world in new energy vehicle production and sales for 9 consecutive years. So why I mention is a competition, because sometimes we do need a balance, right, between conserving the nature and as well as developing the economy. We'll go a little bit deeper into this, but first I want to go to Michael. So the last time we met in person, we actually traveled together in a group together to Xiamen and Ningxia on the theme. The theme of that tour is the coexistence between humanity and nature. Can you tell me a little bit about what you find most impressive during the trip, and how does that connect to green development in China?
Thank you. To my understanding, and I really appreciate the tour that we had last time. We went to South China, from South China, we went also to another part of China, Jinxiang. So what was so amazing is the issue of green technology, more so in terms of energy production. So we saw a very large tract of land in solar panels in Jinxia Desert. And also we saw how they made people talk about the issue of coal. I know coal is so controversial, but I cannot be a proponent of it. Like, I do have to talk more about it, but what I saw is so much embracing, because they did so many innovative, they did a lot of, they have done a lot of innovations in terms of changing the way coal used to be to a more useful coal. So what China did, or what China is doing, is so impressive for us. Some countries who are from developing world, we are supposed to take note of it, and also to have at least copy it in our own countries. Not only to copy everything, but we have to take what is best for us and what suits our environments. So if I try to compare China and Kenya, I'm also so impressed that Chinese companies are operating in Kenya. We have what we call Lake Turkana Wind Power Plant, which is one of the biggest in East and Central Africa. So most of Chinese companies are doing work in these projects. Also, we have geothermal energy. Kenya is within the earth crust where we have a lot of geothermal power, like we have a lot of resources. So Chinese companies are also working on these projects. We share ideas. We have like where they have a lot of like high tech technology, they transfer to us. And also where we have the knowledge that we have, we can transfer to other countries. Right now, KenGen, which is a Kenya generating company producing power in Kenya, they have already gone to Ethiopia. The knowledge that they got from other countries, they are now transferring to other countries. So which is so impressive. So the issue, you talk about cooperation. Cooperation anyway is very nice. And also competition is good because it brings new ideas. But also the government has to work on. So the government has to work side that there are legislations. You have seen recently we have protests, GNC protests in Kenya, which was so, because of these new ideas, like new young people want to know that all the cooperation that we have with other countries, but we should also look into we ourselves, all the technology that we have to import, but we also have to nurture the homegrown. Let not these big companies come to the country and then take over, but we have to give space for some innovative ideas from the youth. So which is so important. Also here in China, not all innovations were brought by older generations. It was brought by young generations. So the issue of new green development in terms of energy production and everything else is so important for us because this is our future. We have to look in future. We don't have to just consume right now. We have to be so much concerned about what's happening in the next 50 or 100 years.
So before we go to other panelists, I just want to quickly ask you, do you think, because I started off this section talking about sometimes there is somewhat a competition between green development and economic development. For you, do you think they can both exist, they can both coexist? Do you think there's a promotion of green development, but as well as contribute to the economy? Has your experience sort of bring you any insights and ideas about this?
Definitely, what I have seen in China is that we have the competition between green development and the traditional one. But right now we have high-tech innovation. High-tech innovations changes the traditional way of living. So even if things were not in the way that we used to think about, but because of technology, because of the new innovations, they have these innovations changes. That's why I was talking about the issue of coal. Because of new technology and new innovations, the bad hazards have been changed into good use. So to me, I think the best way we are moving right now is we utilize our innovation in terms of technology to improve and to bring new, greener ways of living, which would be consistent for our nature and which will be good for us and for our generation to come. And that's what everyone is doing right now. And I think I also appreciate China is taking good lead in it.
So absolutely. I think what impressed me the most during our trip is this idea of ecotourism as well. And how, for example, cleaning up a polluting lake and how this encouraging tourism and also ultimately bringing economic growth to that particular area. So Pablo, I want to go to you because there's a huge part of biodiversity in Mexico as well. And of course, economic growth is also a desire, particularly amongst young people since we last spoken in the section. Can you talk about, like, do young people care about green development when there's so much desire for, for employment and for economic growth?
Well, yeah, I think that it's definitely not like very high priority, but it is a priority nonetheless. And I think that is a worldwide issue, obviously. Climate change and many of these natural disasters, they are a call for action against this kind of climate abuses. But I would say that in Mexico, perhaps we have that industry of ecotourism. We have a great diversity of environments like jungle, like mountains, and it's really very popular, I would hope, worldwide to travel to these places and to partake in these resorts that are meant to be sustainable. But even then, we have the issue of how to develop our industry without taking too many things from the environment. How to develop, for example, our food industry without taking most of the water in a place, without polluting the water resources, the aquifers. How to develop farms without destroying jungle, how to develop even trains and railways without affecting too much of these environments. I would
there
say
was a
that in that
recent
regard,
case I read about building a railway across the jungle, right? And it causes some controversy. Can you talk a little bit about how do you think about this, and what do young people feel in Mexico about, railway mean increasing mobility, right? But at the same time, it's going to cut through a jungle, which is going to destroy some of the biodiversity. In those kind of situations, what could you do?
Yeah, that is a very good question. That in Spanish, that is called el Tren Maya, which means literally the Maya train, which, Mayas in the people, the group that live in this area. So that is a very big question. We have to create a new way to communicate all of these isolated villages, to bring investments and to bring in economic flow into the region. It is a very poor region. But also we have to take into account that we cannot just raise the jungles. How can we balance that and this? But I would say, again, that is a very, very good example to learn from China. China, it is, I don't think, even in question. It has a massive industry, and it created that industry through, obviously, factories and many other things. And there was this big question, I believe, in maybe last century: how is that going to balance with the environment? How are we going to balance this growth with environmental concerns? And then I remember reading just a couple of months ago that emissions have been squashed, per capita emissions in China, by, I believe, more than half of what it used to be. That is an insane number. That is something that I don't think can be even fathomed in many countries in the West, including Mexico. But the fact that it can be achieved, it means that we can also get that in. And this train, I believe, it's a test for this kind of issues. How to approach it? Well, I hope we can.
So country can draw inspiration from each other, but of course, what you mentioned about reducing carbon emission, a large part would be, what Michael described about the solar panel, or whether it's wind power, etc. as well. So we just gotten a comment, as you were mentioning climate change. I know it's very, very popular among young people, and on YouTube we gotten a comment, and I would imagine is a passionate about climate change person, reminded us, environmentally, China has a very, very big focus on sustainable development. And this person mentioned about the peaking carbon emissions before 2030, achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. And this transition to renewable energy and improving energy efficiency is very, very important to a carbon neutral future and towards addressing climate change. I want to go to Angel very quickly, because I know clean energy is somewhat a thing in Hong Kong, increasingly a trend. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yes. I'd actually like to share in an angle as to why the collaboration between mainland and Hong Kong is important in advancing green development. Mainland is actually at very forefront and of green technological innovation, from electric vehicles to advanced battery technologies. Chinese companies are pioneer solutions that are transforming industries and reducing environmental impact. And Hong Kong, with its unique position and capabilities, plays a very crucial role in this green transformation. And first of all, Hong Kong is becoming a major hub for green finance. The city's financial institutions are developing green bonds and sustainable investment products and channeling capital into environmentally friendly projects. This not only drives green development locally, but also supports global sustainability efforts. And we also emphasize a lot on environmental and social and governance criteria, which is the ESG. Recently, Hong Kong also put a lot of focus on the development of hydrogen energy. The first hydrogen bus actually started operating in Hong Kong just last week, and which is very exciting news. As well as our airport authority, Hong Kong has also been trying to burn garbage to produce green hydrogen. And this method was actually originated from mainland, and it is now adapting in Hong Kong.
Can you talk a little bit about why the hype about hydrogen? What's so special about hydrogen?
I think it's a new green energy, and we've been actually working on it for like a very long time. And our legislative council members have been pushing for these projects to succeed and to implement in Hong Kong. And, you know, despite its very small size, Hong Kong act as a demonstration zone for new energy technologies. Like these projects can, you know, the successful projects can be replicated in other regions, showcasing Hong Kong as a model for these green innovations. If I need to give an example, it would be companies like Biadi, which first established a presence in Hong Kong before expanding globally. This also exemplify how Hong Kong serves as a gateway for Chinese green innovations to reach the world. And, you know, other than that, we're also a financial hub, and that's, you know, one of a lot of advantages.
Of course, this is very, very important also to contribute towards the climate action plan that Hong Kong Special Administrative Regional Government has as well towards the middle of the 21st century. Michael, I want to come to you very quickly. So going back to the idea of Global South, particularly, I think we have seen a lot of like climate conferences where the Global South and the least developing countries and economies from around the world are asking for, you know, they want a chance to promote their economy. They want a chance for economic development, but sometimes in compromises of climate change. So I wonder, do people in Kenya care much about climate change when people need jobs, when people need economic growth? How would, you know, people balance between the two?
Definitely, to us in Kenya, we are so much concerned about climate change. You know, Kenya we have the core of the United Nations environmental program, so we are the champion. We are supposed to be the leaders in terms of environmental conservation. So in terms of the issue of carbon emission, we have what we call carbon credit. So far in Kenya, the people, even in the villages, they are really impressed. There are some companies which they have to invest in buying carbon credits, and these investments are going to the local populations, more so in terms of grazing. We have like conservancy, whereby individuals who are living within the conservancy, like pastoralists, they benefit more so for it. So like there are so many activities. And then again, in Kenya, over 90% of our electric generation come from green energy. We don't have, like, we are trying to decommission the diesel generators, like that we are moving to the green development or green energy. So to us, we are so much concerned about it, and even people, because, you know, climate change do affect us. Even if we don't produce a lot of, we are not emitters, but you will find that famine, droughts, we are the more affected by these calamities. More so, let's say floods. Last year, there was a very devastating floods. Almost all the country, all the farms did not produce because of climate change. So we are concerned about it, and we are trying our own capabilities to at least move to green, say that we reduce by, even if it is tiny, we know that we don't have a lot of emissions, but the little that we can emit, we have to reduce it. And also we have to have cooperation with other countries, the big economies like China. And China also is making a big trend, say that they have already have a plan. After a certain time of period, there will be zero carbon emission. I think it's 2060, if I'm not wrong.
2060, yes.
So they have that plan that in that time there will be no carbon emission in China. So it's good that we are all moving in the right direction. We are moving in the same direction, saying that we have to conserve and all the calamities that come from climate change can be mitigated. Yeah.
So I don't think there will be no carbon emission, but there will be carbon neutrality in terms of the net zero emission or net negative, hopefully, in the near future. So you mentioned something very interesting, because combating and addressing climate change can actually bring economic growth and economic development as well. And throughout this time, I saw Pablo, you were nodding quite a lot there. Do you have anything to share from Mexican perspective?
No, I would just say that, yeah, I agree exactly. This issue, as Loris was mentioning, affects the global south a lot more. We also have many of these problems, such as floods, such as droughts. That is so ironic that we have both of these at the same time. But, and we have to take action against. I don't believe, sadly, that we have currently a policy such as the one in China to truly take down our carbon emissions, but I believe that we should, definitely.
So we need to have a plan and work towards it, because as Michael mentioned earlier, it's 2060, so that's quite far ahead, but we need to move one step at a time. And talking about moving one step at a time, let's go to the last segment, which is about improving people's livelihood. Again, let me read you a paragraph to give you some context, and I want to see if anyone have any comments, and we'll continue the discussion. So China's comprehensive reform has led significant improvement in people's livelihood, and a major achievement has been the eradication of absolute poverty, addressing a key challenge in building a modern, prosperous society. Of course, 70% of the world absolute poverty came from China, and a few years back, China have announced that it has eradicated absolute poverty and now is moving into rural revitalization. So this is a huge step towards improving people's livelihood. I wonder, has anyone have visited China where you have seen this happen, and what does that mean to the local areas? Does anyone want to share anything in this aspect?
Yeah, sure. I can share. I've traversed part of China, many parts of China. I've seen what the government have really done. They are really enabled to uplift so many people out of poverty, and which is so commendable. And at least individuals or countries, individuals who are working in poverty alleviation programs, and also some government officials or government should emulate what China have already done. I think, to me, what I've seen is that the poverty alleviation program in China is more so targeted, like you have to target individuals who are more, so they are more in poverty. You know, poverty has several levels. We have many measures of poverty, but you have to look into the more affected people before moving to other individuals. So like for them, they are tailored and also like holistic and diverse. They not only look in terms of, let's say, you have to do this and this, let's say, in terms of, let's say, where individuals or where people who are in poverty are living. They have to locate these individuals. If they are living in an environment which is not conducive for farming or economic activity, they have to move them to at least relocate to a place which is so good for them, conducive for them to work and to do any economic activity, which is so nice. People should look at strategies like that one. Let's say people who are living in the mountainous areas in western part of China, some part of central China, like prone to flooding. So these people are moved to another place which is conducive for them to do economic activity. And then also they have like programs which they have to continue until these people are really moved out of poverty, which is so nice. They look issues from vocational training, they train people, young individuals, microfinance and financial inclusion. social assistance, and also not forgetting ecological restorations from where these people are living, or where if the place is not conducive, which is so amazing. So to me, I think this is one of the measures that people and countries should emulate. Most of my country, we also have poor people from in slums.
So what I'm hearing is almost like a targeted approach, right? Because I think what I'm hearing is that, China is a very, very big country. And as I mentioned, there was a lot of people lifted out of poverty, 700 to 800 million people. But what that also entails is that there's different people, population of different challenges, and that need different approach towards this as well. One other comment just came in. So someone mentioned about the goal of China. What China is trying to do is create a more equitable society with a stronger middle class. So talk about equity. I think one thing that I think about is my hometown, Hong Kong, where I'm from, because the income disparity is quite wide in Hong Kong. And Angel, as a member of the district council, I wonder what are some of the things that you see is happening, particularly what are some of the things that you are doing as well in improving the community in your region?
Well, improving my community. Well, my community is actually a quite wealthy community. The area that I serve, and
they don't need to be improved.
Well, I mean they need to be improved, but in different kind of area. Yeah. And I do agree that there are a lot of people, including youngsters in Hong Kong, that need help, because some of them, a lot of them actually, some people in Hong Kong live in subdivided houses. So one big family living in a very small apartment, and that's not really good for the development of a kid. So we actually do a community living room. This is like a project led by the Hong Kong government. So we find a place in the community and we build a living room kind of area for them. We give them areas for laundry, and then for cooking, and then for doing their homework. And that is some initiatives that we're doing. We're also doing, we're building more houses to, allow these people to live in a better environment. There are a lot of initiatives that the Hong Kong government is doing. We also have dorms that are for youngsters, so they can rent these apartments in a lower price. And these are actually led by some youth organizations in Hong Kong. So what we're doing as district councillors are that we act as a bridge between youngsters or like citizens in Hong Kong and the government. So whatever they want us to, they want to voice out and want the Hong Kong government to know, would help them do that. And
a lot of time, I would imagine this means listening to a lot of complaints from the citizens as well. What I'm hearing is that what you're trying to do is to provide a social guarantee, right? A social security for the people in your region. But one thing that strikes me is that you are one of the very few, if not the only, district councillor who were born after 2000, right? Born after the millennium.
I'm the first one.
You're the first one. Well, congratulations. I wonder, how does this youth perspective help your work? Does it help your work, or does it deter people from listening to your plans and strategy?
I think our team is definitely more creative and more energetic. We try to do things that are different from what people used to do. We try to come up with new plans that would encourage more youngsters to join. That includes fun fairs with involving the coffee festival, or we have carnivals, we have different workshops, and maybe movie night as well. And that's not something that's very common back then, and we try to make a new trend out of this.
So how to better engage the people that you serve and listen to them as well.
Yes.
Great. So Pablo, I want to go to you, and then before we wrap up. So you mentioned there's a new leadership, of course, in Mexico. And whenever there's new leadership, they talk about changes and reforms. I wonder, what do the Mexican youth want, particularly in social reforms? I know employment is one of the issues that young people really care about as well. Can you share about, what social reforms can happen to transform the countries into a place that young people would like to live and can be innovative in?
Yeah, sure. Well, we have a lot of issues, I would have to say. Poverty alleviation, of course, unemployment. I would say that the first, perhaps the most important issues would be those of the basic needs. If one can not even guarantee, but rather have this possibility to achieve housing, to achieve food security, and obviously a job, a dignified employment opportunity, that would do an incredible amount of propelling forward the economy and perhaps even society. The question is how to achieve that. I believe that, in my opinion, the reason why this poverty alleviation program worked so well in China was because the Chinese system, it's already designed to do this kind of things. The four modernizations were created in this kind of widespread national scale. It was a very ambitious program that was created because the government could do it, because the Chinese system can do that kind of big scale programs. And in Mexico, that has been the issue for several decades, I would say even several centuries now. How can we apply this to the whole width of our country? Well, I would say that we have to achieve that kind of system first before we can create any ambitious program or enact any ambitious reforms.
This is definitely very, very much needed. The hour passes on quite quickly. In the next episode, we'll be looking ahead, but to wrap up this particular episode of The Hype, development, whether it's in China or around the world, there are opportunity and challenges, as we have discussed. But hopefully, the overall outlook is positive, with opportunities outweighing some of the challenges that we see. So to wrap up, all of our guests have studied in China or are studying in China. Can you share maybe one or two things that you want to take away back to whether it's your own discipline or future career or your current career that you can take away with you? Can we start with Angel? Why don't you go first?
Wait, do you mind to repeat your question?
Yes, of course. So you study in China, right? In public management and business management. So what I want to wrap up is, what are some of the things that, you have learned that you can take away to your current role and to your future role as well?
Definitely. I think Chinese modernization is definitely very it's very applicable to Hong Kong as well. How they have like such comprehensive planning, and then how they implement their plans so well. I think this is something that we need to learn, and that is something that I've been learning. I've been reading a lot of documents of from the Chinese government, and then I think the idea is very comprehensive and very useful for my work as well.
So looking at the bigger picture, but also the implementation is key.
Yes, the implementation is key, I would say.
So Pablo, why do you go to you next? What are some of the things that, I know you only been here for 2 years, if I remember correctly. So what are some of the things that you think you can take away back to Mexico?
No, I have only been here for 1 year. Yeah,
1 year.
Well, even less than 1 year. Yeah. I would say that without a doubt, my whole focus on my research is comparing China to Mexico, historically, politically, and economically. I believe that we are very similar countries. We have historical ties even, and we can learn a lot from each other. Right now, in this century, we have to engage in a bigger dialogue to be able to move forward in our respective areas that we can mutually benefit each other.
engaging dialogue. This is a very, very important part. Michael, you're part of the Institute of South-South Cooperation Development. Coming to China and taking and sharing knowledge is one of the core reasons of why you're here. Has there been any takeaways? What are some of the takeaways that you want to take back to Kenya?
So my takeaway beside cooperation is the issue. When you come to China, there are so many things that you come into your mind when you see how the system operates. First of all, the meritocracy. Chinese people, Chinese government are much concerned. They look into the capabilities of individuals. Again, is the issue of accountability. People are very accountable. And then now the good governance. So these three things are so important that we in Kenya, for us, we know our own systemic problems. And our systemic problems are in these three categories. So if we try to change these three categories, then the economic development, economic growth, we will achieve in a very short span of time, because we know, and I know, Kenyans are so much creative, they are hardworking. But if we integrate these three key issues, then we will move very far. That's my only takeaway from China.
Having plan, having execution, having great strategy is one thing, but also at the same time, it's about people. It's about serving the people, and you also need great people and great accountability system to also make this happen. So thank you so much to all of our panelists. Throughout the last hour, we spoke from economics development to innovation to green development, and also in ways to improve people's livelihood. So as I said right at the very, very beginning, during the third plenary session of the 20th Central Committee of the Communist Party of China, which just concluded, they talked about an exciting plan towards 2029, where People's Republic of China will be turning 80, but also plan towards 2035 as well. So I'll ask you to stay tuned to our next episode of The Hype, where we'll be talking about this and many, many more. Thank you so much to our panelists again. I really, really enjoy the discussion, and I hope you watching live right now enjoy this as much as I did. Thank you so much again. I'll see you next week in The Hype. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.